We are in Fillmore, Utah, sort of continuing our capital trek at Utah's first state capitol, sort of.
Well, it technically was their first state capitol. Now it is a museum and part of the state park system in Utah. It was originally designed to be Utah's capital. This was the geographic center of the Utah Territory, which at the time encompassed everything from Utah, South Dakota, Nevada, Idaho. I mean, it was like this huge, it was called Deseret. It was this huge territory. And this was the geographic center. It lasted about 1 year until the federal government stepped in and said, you don't get all of that land. You only get the boundaries of what became Utah. And the capital was relocated to Salt Lake City. But this was the first state capitol where the first sessions of the legislature were held.
And if it seems small, it's because it is, and it's incomplete. If this had continued to be the state capitol, this would have actually been just one wing of the capitol, and they had a lot bigger plans for it. But with everything moving to Salt Lake City, and then they had, before they even moved, they had problems getting additional funding to complete this capitol, so it was kind of a mess. And then they moved to Salt Lake City, and if you haven't seen that video, we have a video on the state capitol in Salt Lake, so check that one out.
And that capital is quite large and grand and beautiful. And this one would have been, if you see the drawings of what it was intended to be, it was meant to be a grand capital. But this is just the south wing of it. But they did have session here, 1 full session and 2 part-time sessions. And then, like Ari said, a number of things cropped up and they ended up moving north to Salt Lake City. But now you can visit it as a museum. It's got a lot of different historical artifacts, both from the state of Utah, from the area around Fillmore here, and just some miscellaneous historical state things, I guess, that you can see, interesting tidbits.
It is. Well, this building, after it was used as a Territorial Statehouse, has been used for a lot of things. I mean, everything from a dance hall to a Presbyterian mission school. And they have a lot of different things in there from the different time periods and the things that it was used for. I thought it was really interesting. There's sort of almost like a wall of fame of settlers from Fillmore and the area. And it kind of gives you an idea of who was here. And you see their pictures and tells a little bit of each of their biographies just a little bit. And that was kind of neat just to see that.
That was really cool. And there's a whole room devoted to music because there was different choirs and bands that were here in the Fillmore area. So they have a whole section on, there's some organs and different other instruments on display. There's an entire room devoted to, the Presbyterian mission and sort of an example of what a teacher's house or a teacher's room would have looked like. There's a room devoted to former Governor John Huntsman, whose family was originally from the Fillmore area. And so they donated a lot of memorabilia from the family and from his time in the governorship. And that's here on display in the museum, and just a lot of other different things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things from settlers from the area and that traveled to this area. And what I thought was really neat is there's notes on all about who donated it. And so it just seems like a lot of stuff that people have sort of had in their family and decided, hey, it needs to be preserved. So they've given it to this museum, and they've done a good job of preserving that.
Today, the museum is surrounded by like a garden area. There's picnic tables out here. There's a library, the county courthouse. There's like a pool next door, as well as these little cabins that were originally built by the settlers in this area and were moved here on the grounds to be preserved. And so, you can come here and have a picnic. You probably spend maybe, half hour to an hour in the museum, depending on how quick and how much you actually want to read. But it's a nice little stop.
If you're trying to find it, it is the Territorial Statehouse Museum State Park in Fillmore. And one note of interest, it was Utah's first state park. So that's kind of neat to see that here. If you're in the Fillmore, Utah area, it's worth a short stop, have a picnic, check out some of the history of this area and of Utah, and enjoy it. In the meantime, keep on trekking.
And we'll see you out there.